part of this. But I want to drill into podcasting, because since that's your area of key growth, it's a challenging, wonderful channel for me. I've been in it from the beginning, and I honestly do remember interviewing Michael back in '95,
we've been doing it for 15, 16 years.
Him saying, we can put audio on the site. That is so great. And Slate was early in on this. I think you guys were doing this early on. But I want to talk about how it becomes a business and what you've learned about making it into a business. How does it work economically in terms of what does it take to make this profitable?
So, excuse me. So first and foremost, it takes good content, right? You have to create stuff that people will listen to. It's a toggle for us. You know, when we look at creating new, at least, it's a toggle between, you know, what is journalistically important and what we think is important to create for users and listeners, but also what we think can be commercially viable. And so we're always looking at it with those two filters. Sometimes we'll create stuff that is not commercially viable because it's important as journalistic, you know, venture to do. And then a lot of other times we'll look at something and say, hey, listen, we're known for, you know, our tech and business voice. Let's go find the hole in the space in tech and business podcasting that we feel like we could create great audio that we can also make a commercial success. We've got 4 studios in our office in Brooklyn. Mm-hmm. We've got 2 down in Washington. So it takes some investment at first, for sure. The other thing that we do decently well, because we've done it for so long, is a lot of our print journalists, or text journalists, I should say, do a lot of our podcasting. That's hard sometimes because a lot of them want to do it. Some of them are better than others. But they bring a voice and an understanding that is Slate to the podcasting that I think is differentiating, and I think is what's made some of our podcasts really good. But the frustrating part of it for now is there's really just one revenue stream, separate from how we lever them for Slate Plus, which is advertising. It's still pretty good. It's a high CPM advertising. It's bifurcated between direct response and brand. The brand guys are now coming in a really aggressive way and have been for the last 18 months. It used to be 80% of this business was driven by the ZipRecruiters and the Blue Aprons of the world, which are great partners. But brands are now coming into it in a really aggressive way, which is fun. It's great to be a consultative brand in that space, to come in and teach brands, you know, how best practices, how to use audio in a way that is smart. But it is a advertising-driven medium for now. I will tell you though, one of the reasons we also are investing in that is that there's a lot of money out there being thrown in the audio space. There are a bunch of companies there trying to create subscription models. There's a lot of companies there that are buying IP. You know, so there's a lot of revenue streams around audio right now that we don't see in text right now. So besides just the ad stuff, I think that there's a tail that in the next 2 or 3 years anyway is going to be really, really important for us.
Okay, I want to get to that. I want to get to the actual monetization and the formats. Let's talk about. I mean, it's a limited inventory. It's a format that's basically host reads, or now we're seeing some programmatic inserts. What are the formats that you're using? What's proven successful? Tell us about things like ad load, ad rates, to make this a profitable business.
Yeah. So ad rates are still really, really good, mostly because the brand guys are coming into it now. We do mostly host reads at Slate in our network. That is proven. If you look at all the data, host reads are much more effective. We still dynamically insert a lot of our host reads. So a lot of people get a little confused and they hear of dynamic insertion and they think that is still not a live host read. It is in fact a host read. It's not live, but if you insert it professionally, it will sound live. So we do most of that host reads because that's important. The other way to do it though is just to put in a recorded ad. It's not nearly as effective, but you know, you can get more scale. Right now what's happening in podcasting is there are premium publishers like us, but then there are a lot of folks who are just running after huge scale. And host reads are hard to do at huge scale. And so that is our sister company, Panoply, we created out of Slate about 4 years ago when we saw the opportunity to create a scalable network versus we always knew we wanted Slate to be premium. And so Panoply and Slate, both owned by Graham Holdings, We just announced a couple of weeks ago that Panoply would, they have about 250 shows on their network. They're going to stop selling all of their advertising red product, and they're just going to go, they're just basically running after an audience-based model. I say programmatic's really not programmatic, but they're the first company that's plugged into Nielsen, so they've got a DMP. They now can sell across audience targeting. It's IP-based address, so this room understands the limitations in that, but at least in this marketplace right now, one of the biggest frustrations in audio is that there's not a lot of data to it. 70% goes through Apple. A lot of people, there's just not a lot of data. That's giantly annoying for everybody. So I think it's a little bit of a statement about the audio market right now and about podcasting is that Panoply has seen the ability to, they're not going to sell anything else. They're not going to go sell host reads. They're not going to sell recorded reads. They're trying to create, or they're going to market rather with a very singular strategy, which is come by across our network through Nielsen audience targeting.
But they also decided to become a tech company rather than a content company. They stopped all of their content.
No, this is my exact point.
Their content. So does that reveal an underlying challenge right now or problem for podcasting that we're in a glut of content, that one of its main providers decided to pull out of making content?
So I actually think it says the opposite. I think what it does is it says, like, look at the digital marketplace 8 or 10 years ago. I mean, all of a sudden, you know, ad networks came, and there was a run after scale, and then it was a run after scale with targeting. That's exactly what's happening in podcasting right now in the very beginning. They have seen the opportunity to be the first one to be a tech company to come in and sell targeted audience around what they hope will be a big scalable proposition. So I think it's the opposite. I think that they're looking at what happened in digital 10 years ago. And, you know, people, not everybody wants scale, but some people do, right? And so they're going to create a proposition where if you just want scale, you're not giantly concerned about some of the other things that kind of scale in an ad network, you know, puts in front of you that maybe you don't love. But there are a lot of folks who just want the scale, and that's what they're running after.
Now, for Slate's own business, did this work because, is this a hit-driven business where you're really looking for the slow burns and the political gabfests or the real hits that will drive those? You know, we've all heard stories about what the Daily makes per drop, you know, some insane amount that they're charging there. Is this a hit-driven business, especially in a world that's got a glut of podcasting right now? Or is the money coming from a network effect, that you have a portfolio you're selling and cross-promoting against?
So for us, it's a portfolio. I mean, we want hits, and Slow Burn was a hit, but our strategy is not super hit-driven. You know, Political Gabfest has been going on for 13 years. It's a big podcast, but it's a podcast that people have come to expect week in and week out, and so we have a real relationship with our listener. So our strategy is not hit-driven. Our strategy is very portfolio-driven. Come into the Slate portfolio. We're affluent. We're educated. We're super engaged. We've got a lot of numbers to back that up. Do we want some hits? Of course. And Slow Burn was one of them. If we can get a couple more hits in there, it just builds the scale. But like, I don't want scale for scale's sake. You know, if I had a huge hit about Trump, I couldn't monetize that, you know, very well. And so I don't want, like, I need focused scale. I don't need scale for scale's sake, because that also is hard to really monetize.
But the portfolio also helps in promotion and discoverability, because discoverability in podcasting absolutely sucks, always has, and there doesn't seem to be an easy answer to it. But when you have a portfolio, you can cross-promote.
And we're super lucky about that. We do have we have 25 of them. So that's in large part how I think we grew Slow Burn, is that we put Slow Burn into the feed of 7 of our podcasts that were contextually relevant, and bam, like literally the next day.
And the relationship between this now, and I want to pivot to events. I leave time for questions, so if you have questions for Charlie, think of them now, but I just have a couple of wrap questions about podcasting and how it interweaves with the other revenue and audience building stream of events. Tell us where events are in relation to podcasting and what role they're playing now for you.
So we're kind of transitioning our event business. I'll tell you where it stands now. We do about 30 events a year. They are all live podcasts. And it has historically been a bit of an afterthought on the commerce side. We sell tickets against it, so it's a money-making business for us, though very small. It's not a money-losing business for us, put it that way. It's a promotion business for us. It's great PR. The Slow Burn guys, Leon is going on a tour starting today and going around to 4 cities in the country, and we'll sell 400 tickets to these events, and it's a great thing for the brand. It gets people kind of excited. It's like the super user and the super engaged person just love them, and we sell some signage to them, to some advertisers. We do some custom stuff where if we're doing one of our tech podcasts is live, and we'll bring a tech partner, and they'll do some kind of custom, kind of native thing in the beginning. They'll either open it up, they'll do a quiz or something like that. We're moving our event business a little bit next year to be more focused on, we're going to productize it more, basically. So we're going to do a podcast awards event, and that's going to be pretty big. There's nobody doing that right now. We're going to kind of come in and put a stake in the ground to be like, these are the podcast awards. This is what's the best. This is, very Academy Award-like, maybe not that big. But right now, our strategy is it's a PR-based strategy that if we can drive media dollars with it, we will. But it's not. We don't have an event scale right now where we can go and decide that we're going to put $3 million in it. It's going to be a $10 million business.
But a lot of this evolution from the mid-90s to this evolution from, as Slate was first described and published as a digital weekly magazine. It came out on a given day at a given time. And now we are into a set of revenue streams and audience relationships. They're so much more intimate. A lot of the things you're describing that you're succeeding at have to do with that intimacy and that direct, again, that sort of D2C connection
you're
with
exactly
the
right.
audience.
Yeah, it's a very much a relationship with the audience. That's our cost of doing business, right? Is we have to engage a consumer in every platform we have.
Find not just diversity of models, but find those models that are really on brand and enhance that aspect of the brand. Charlie, thank you very much.
Yeah, of course.
This is interesting. We have time for questions. Time for questions of Charlie.
Oh, thank you.
Please, just when you
Hi,
have a question,
I got one.
just raise your hand and tell us who you are and who you're with.
My name is Bill Ullman. I work at Smithsonian Media. So, like you, we're not a news organization. We're trying to get people to see a Smithsonian perspective on the world. We publish Smithsonian.com. My question for you, because we're going after the same kind of premium audience. How do you define a premium audience, number one? Like, do you tell your advertisers about them, and what do you tell them? And secondly, how do you know that they're there? And thirdly, what's the relationship between the premium audience and all your other revenue products like Slate Plus?
So our Slate Plus folks are actually the most premium of our audience we've found, but we use a bunch of third-party data. We build, we index, we way over-index against, having a third degree against income 150,000 plus, against 500,000 plus assets. Like we look at the ecosystem and we way over-index against the market. And what's nice is that podcasting way over-index against the market, period, right? It skews younger and it skews more affluent. And then our podcasting actually way over-indexes against that index. So we use a lot of third-party data. We do a lot of research against our users on text, but we also do a lot of research against our listeners. Kind of have to, because there's not a lot of syndicated research against podcast listeners right now. Edison will have stuff that talks about the total market, but they don't have it brand specific. So we go in and talk to about 20,000 listeners a year to get an idea of where they stand in terms of demographics and some psychographics.
What metrics are you able to deliver to advertisers off of podcast buys?
So we can do job titles, we can do male-female, we can do geography, we can do affluence. We can put kind of anything we want into the thing that we do every year. It gets a little hard sometimes because we do it also by show, and so sometimes your data won't be it won't be huge if it's a small show, but.
You mentioned that host reads. You know that host reads are more effective than inserts. How do you know that?
Because every direct response advertiser you talk to tells us that.
Okay.
Everyone.
Do you have any other questions for Charles? Yep, back there.
Thanks, Charles. Bill from ESPN. That was really informative and interesting to see the podcasting aspect and also all the DTC stuff that you're doing. In regards to the audio, what technology are you using to dynamically add insert and to monetize your inventory in the podcasting?
So Megaphone, our Panoply, our sister company, they have a CMS called Megaphone, and that's what we use. There's a bunch of them out there. But that's what we use. I think that is the best one, but that's the one we use. You guys, I mean, you guys have a ton of big podcasts.
We do, and I think that's an area where just monetization, there could be tons of opportunity. And I think my interpretation is I think there's more technology needed to kind of get to where we need to be.
Well, you hinted at some that were coming that you saw. What are some of the models that you see coming that are going to be able to draft off of and monetize this channel better?
Well, so you have the two giant platforms in Spotify and Pandora that are getting into this business in a major way, and they're total frenemies right now. But their podcasting ecosystems, even though they're both big, are very small. But you have a bunch of companies right now that are VC-backed that are coming and paying for content, where they'll come and say, hey, listen, we'd like to have your two podcasts, and we want to put them behind our wall in a paid model. And then it's a decision, right? It's a decision on brand. Do I want to take that show and put it behind a place where a lot less people are going to listen to it, but I'm going to make 4 times the amount of money doing that. And those are the metrics. Like they're paying. You know, this is like Pets.com. Like I hope these guys are around in 2 or 3 years, but these guys are paying really a lot of money for content in order to build a subscription model that we all hope is sustainable. We want people to pay for this content, of course.
How about smart speakers? Shouldn't smart speakers be adding an interactive element to podcasting that allows you essentially to interact with the medium in a way that we can't in the usual?
It's adding two things. It's adding great distribution, and so it's driving great volume, but it's absolutely, we have this product called Slate News Quiz, and you can go ask your speaker, hey, I want to